Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, you know what time it is. It's Tuesday night. Time to take that trip to Orlando. Right here on the Danza Project, like my boy Danza say. It's more than just a podcast, it's a network. And the Trip to Orlando show that you see every single week on Tuesday nights. Actually, last week it was Wednesday, but you know what it is. Every single week on Tuesday nights. Another piece of content, another vibe, another piece of entertainment that we bring to you here at the Danza Project. So, we live, bro. And without any further ado, if you are coming here for the first time, I appreciate you. And if you are coming back and you are a recurring audience member, you know what time it is. You know what we about to do. We start the show off every single week with the theme song to get the vibe right. So let's do it.
Feeling the weight like a suitcase of stress.
Let's go.
Time to pack it up and leave the mess.
Come on.
Hop on a ride to a brighter glow.
What we say?
Not just a trip, it's the ultimate show. Trip to Orlando, the getaway you need.
Right.
Laughs and reviews at lightning speed. Trip to Orlando where fun runs free. Your ticket to the stars and celebrity.
Yeah. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Like I said, it's the Trip to Orlando show. This is what we do every single week. I bring you the story of the week, the movie review of the week, and the TV show of the week. So this week, we got to talk about it, man. We got to talk about the legendary end of an era. Hotline 7, Ebro in the Morning show. It's no more, man. It's no more. And the internet had a whole lot to say about that. So, friend to our show, Vlad, weighed in, and we're going to talk about that as well. But it's crazy, man, because it's like, again, when I come in here and I give y'all my point of view, I'm usually coming from the point of view of like, just, you know what I'm saying, big unk status, right? You know what I mean? I've been here for a while. Born in the late 1900s. Seen a lot of shit, guys. So I remember particularly the way that the impact of radio used to be. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'll give you a quick little story. You know, I wasn't always doing the podcast thing, producer for that. Back in the day, had studios, engineered, traveled a lot doing that. And I used to go to New York quite often. You know what I mean? Shout out to Quad Studios, worked out of there for a little bit. And I remember one particular summer, I think it was about 2005, them times there, right? So picture it. Puerto Rican Day Parade, 2005, the Bronx. And what come on the radio? Nothing other than the legendary Lean Back by the One Fat Joe. And when I tell you, when that song came on the radio, you heard that shit in every single car that was passing. It come in like you was at the club because every car on the street, in the traffic jam, in the Puerto Rican Day Parade was playing the same song at the same time. And that's the magic of radio. Hitting a diverse population all at once. So you can have moments. And then New York radio stations is legendary because they have the Summer Jam concert, real tapped into the communities, and it's a thing. But the question is it still a thing? Because I'm telling you a cool story, but that was from 20 years ago. So the impact of radio, and by extension, the impact of radio hosts has changed. Now, there was a legendary interview. In fact, let's talk about just radio in general, right? So basically, it's a marketplace. So we have different companies competing for a certain marketplace. So at one point, hip hop and urban music have become such a large genre that there was essentially enough of a market so that two competing radio stations or two competing companies can compete for market share. And then, of course, radios, the reason why they are even still a thing is because they're in cars. So the minute they stop putting radios in cars is when radio will stop being a true factor. But until that day, there's always going to be a certain element of radio stations penetration on the market because it's a passive listening experience. You just turn this shit on, you ain't got to do nothing else but listen to it. If you're stuck in traffic, you're going to be listening to news, weather, certain things that people will always check out. So when you have a market, if the market's big enough, you could have two competing radio stations. Like down here, we have 103.5 The Beat and 99 Jams, right? So it's the equivalent of that same situation going on in New York, where you have Hotline 7, which is like the local hometown radio station, and then the bigger part of a conglomerate is the word I want to use. The Power 105, or down here it's 103.5 The Beat, all syndicated radio shows where essentially you get like the Breakfast Club everywhere. And then the other radio station will have like the localized radio show, right? So in our demographic down here in South Florida, we got 99 Jams, and you have the local radio show on that. And then you have the syndicated radio show, which is the Breakfast Club, right? So with that being said, what's essentially happening is that on Hot 97, for whatever reason, the Ebro in the Morning show did not have nearly enough market share for it to warrant to still exist. So it's not so much the argument that hip-hop or hip-hop radio or radio itself is dead, but the market is so small that unless you're really doing something revolutionary or thinking outside the box, that conglomerate is going to kick your ass. In that case, or in this case, that conglomerate is the Breakfast Club. So I'm saying all that to say this, right? So right now, if we look at the internet, basically everybody is kicking Ebro's back in, right? They're saying that they should have known, and Ebro himself really, I guess at the time he probably thought it was cool or something like slick he was doing, where he positioned himself, and by default, the other hosts, Paul Rosenberg and Laura Stiles, positioned themselves as like old heads, like old man Ebro, hip hop purists, and they made it almost like a thing that they were going to defend this, I guess, golden era of hip hop, right? And there's countless clips. I'm not even gonna go into it, but like we'll talk about, for instance, when Ebro famously told Uzi Vert that he wasn't going to be a rock star. And that was like 7 years ago. And now Uzi Vert is big as fuck. He's damn near ready to retire, right? Or another famous clip when, Nicki Minaj was roasting the shit out of Paul Rosenberg because he was saying, he was trying to make some comment about how he didn't like super bass and it wasn't hip hop or whatever, right? Or the situation where Rosenberg just be glazing Kendrick Lamar in the beef versus Drake. You know what I'm saying? Or like all those different forms of slander kind of represent a narrative. And that narrative, I mean, many people have been on their show and actually told them, look, man, your viewpoint, your dinosaur way of looking at shit ain't gonna work. And because of that, when they got packed up, because it's crazy. It's not even like they redid the show. It's not even like they repackaged it. They just packed all three of them up and said, get the fuck out of here. And it was crazy because Ebro himself was technically the program director. So he's like the manager of the station. So he just had to leave in all capacity, which is crazy. You know what I'm saying? Because if you look at a comparable situation, say, for instance, a couple years ago when Angela Yee left the Breakfast Club, she made an announcement like a whole year, and they damn near had like a reality competition show to see who was going to replace her. So it wasn't like a fly-by-night thing. She had another show waiting for her. It wasn't a situation that seemed out of desperation, or better yet, seemed like a penalty, right? They seem like they're getting penalized. Like, yo, fuck y'all, get up out of here. This is not what it is. And the speculation is a few different things, right? One speculation is that not only was their narrative off-putting, but they didn't really do anything to adapt with the times. So not only are they coming with this dinosaur mentality of just their taste, I mean, but everybody has their own opinion on taste, but like the way that they were operating from purely an employee mindset. Now, granted, Paul Rosenberg had his own YouTube channel for God knows how long. In fact, he could probably even take credit for being one of the first hip-hop podcasts. But again, that dinosaur mindset. This is not radio, bro. Like, let's see if we got anybody in the chat. There we go. Shout out to you. Academics was spot on. Hell yeah. Yeah, shout out to DJ Snoopy. But yeah, the point is, they are not adapting to the fact that you have an active audience. They're still treating it like radio, like they have a passive audience, which is just talking at them, not interacting, not clipping things up, not moving in a way that really brings the content to the audience. They're expecting you to just tune in and listen and shut the fuck up and wait for the ads, which is cool when you're in a car, right? But outside of that, it's not really a business model that's going to work to sustain any one of their individual brands. Because there's that legendary interview of Dame Dash when he went to the Breakfast Club, which I kind of found it was a little bit disappointing when he went back the last time and him and Charlamagne were going back and forth and they were just basically calling each other names like schoolgirls. Like that whole shit wasn't really productive at all to me. But I do like the very first time he went there and he basically told Charlamagne and Envy the same shit that's happening to Ebro, Paul Rosenberg, and Laura Styles. He's like, bro, y'all don't own none of this shit. So if they was telling you to get the fuck up out of here right now, what are y'all gonna do about it? And they was talking about job security and trying to make this whole argument for employee mindset. But you could tell from that interview that something really did change in both Envy and Charlamagne. Because as much as they don't want to admit it, the two of them went out and built brands outside of 103.5 The Beat, which is our local radio station, but outside of the Breakfast Club. So they very intentionally, DJ Envy had his podcast with his wife and then like his other DJ gigs. And then unfortunately the whole scamming bullshit, with the real estate RICO. But you know what I mean? His heart was in the right place. You know what I'm saying? He was really trying to do things outside of just the radio station. And then Charlamagne, you see his whole thing, He famously said that he was the one that was really pushing the radio station to get their own YouTube channel because he's like, bro, we're putting this shit out. People are clipping it and it's going on other platforms, generating views for everybody else. We need to be on top of that. And then, to his credit, their YouTube is turned up. And then on top of that, he went out and has his own podcast network. And then he has other podcasts, the Andrew Schultz shit, all that. So, and then Yee herself, she been on YouTube with that I forgot what's called, Lip Service or whatever it's called, but her all-female podcast, yeah, that whole shit's been going up. She basically found a niche, worked into it, been doing that forever, and she also has her own radio show. So the argument itself of old media versus new media, it's just a matter of interacting with the audience and building brands. Because the old media way, it's not quite dead yet, but it's definitely dying out. And it will always be about the radio station itself. Like, there's no one DJ or one radio host or disc jockey or whatever, or programming director for that matter, Ebro, that's going to be bigger than the station. You see what I'm saying? Like, the station is always going to have that that position as being the head of the organization. It's the entity that moves and they work underneath it. Versus the new media model where the host, the personality, the person in front talking to the audience, that is the brand. And everything else is support around that. So that way, if you're a situation like, Aiden Ross, where you get kicked off of one platform, you move to another. So, or Kai Cenat, or whatever. You could build off of one platform. You could help build up another platform. And the business model itself is actually inverted because the media platform, the channel, all that stuff is secondary to, in this case, we'll say the creator, right? So the fact that Ebro and them, the first thing they said after talking all this shit about creators was move to YouTube is also the part that everybody's having a good time with. Because not only do you sound like a hypocrite, you also sound like the person who wants to act like, oh, now that I'm in this situation, it's good for me, but when it was you in this situation, it was a bad idea. You know, Ack famously was talking about how they were calling him just some dude in the basement when it was him. But now when it's them, they're making a bigger, bolder change. They're taking back their freedom of speech to talk about politics or whatever. So, you know, they look crazy. And the most interesting thing to me is that once they actually made that move, you know, which is probably something pretty new that no one's ever really checked out, is that they're actually performing better on YouTube than they ever did when they was strictly on Hot 97 working with their channel. Because they have a new channel. Like, Ack was roasted the Ebro in the Morning channel, but they actually have this channel right here, the Ebro Laura Rosenberg show. And that's been getting some more views, right? Their first couple days, they're been getting way more views than they ever had on the Hot 97 channel. But I digress. You know what I'm saying? What we got to get to is our boy Vlad. Because Vlad called this shit. I mean, right now I'm reacting to it. You know, I'm giving my little thoughts or whatever. But Vlad's one of those people who was on the scene dealing with them. Because that's the other thing, too. A lot of people are like, namely academics and Vlad, they're basically saying that, man, when we had the time to reach out to you and when you had the position, when you were in the position to help us out, you acted like a gatekeeper. So not only are you a hypocrite, but at the time you were just an asshole anyway. So people are having a great time tap dancing on their grave. But let's check out Vlad's response. Oh yeah, shout out to Hello Yassine. He always got good content covering shit. Plus, you know, he read the tweets better than I do.
Onto this beef that I'll get into a little bit later, but I want to cover it because, funny enough, he predicted this at the right time, because in April 3rd, 2025, he would post the following, and this is Vlad. For all the up-and-coming hip-hop media outlets, look at Peter Rosenberg for what not to do. Same dead-end, low-paying radio job for 20 years. Never got a promotion. In fact, he got demoted when Ebro took the main position on the Hot 97 morning show. It's hard to compare.
Yeah, that is kind of crazy. So Ebro and Rosenberg relationship is kind of wild to me because Ebro was the program director, which means that he's like the manager. He don't even got to be doing shit. He's just there doing the program schedule, figure out what songs are on the playlist, that type of shit, making sure that the advertisers are happy and whatnot. But he said, nah, fuck that. I'm about to do a morning show on top of that. You go get these old man bars. So he kind of pushed Rosenberg out the way, and now he's doing double duty. He's the program director, and he's also the host of the show. So you would think that his job would be a little bit safer because he's doing two different roles, and that for whatever reason, if the show wasn't working out, they say, all right, Ebro, you're good. Just go back and do your thing in the back office, and we're going to rework this morning show. They was like, nah, nigga, get the fuck out of here. And take them two with you. Yeah.
Pete with Ebro. Ebro's also he's more willing to disagree. He's not willing to just keep the peace. And that type of a personality is always going to dominate the show. Spent 18 years uploading to his YouTube channel to only have 50K followers. Most of the videos he drops get less than 1K views. Hated on every new media person who came in the game. Formed no relationships with any of us. Will ultimately retire broke and bitter.
Yeah. Whew. Smoked him, Vlad. But it's true. I ain't gonna lie. Vlad is right. You have to adapt with the times. Because again, old media versus new media, right? New media is taking off, it's growing, but old media, even though it's dying out, it's still going to have a place, which means, because there's a couple other things that people don't really think about, right? Even with your digital streams or whatever, right, the royalty rate is an aggregate, meaning that, like, basically, to the best of my knowledge, I'm going to give you a quick synopsis. So in other words, when Spotify and iTunes or whatever, Spotify is a good example. When Spotify stepped to the labels in the beginning times of their streaming, they're like, look, guys, we're not going to make a bunch of money, but we're going to work out a deal where as this shit grows and people adopt it, the bag's going to get bigger and bigger. So basically, they decided that what we're going to do is if you allow us to stream all these artists and labels and whatever, allow us to stream all these labels, artists, what we're going to do is we're going to take the pie of money and divide it up, quote unquote, equally. So if we make, let's say, $5,000 this year, we're going to divide that up. But next year, if we make $10,000, we're going to divide that up. And next year, if we make $20,000, we're going to divide that up, and so on and so forth. So that's essentially how streaming works. It's a percentage of whatever's compiled for that particular year or the quarter or whatever. Radio don't really work like that. Radio just gives you like a hard number. Like, it is what it is. They give you like 7 cents per spin or 5 to 7 cents per spin, depending on the market, so on and so forth. So the playlisting money or royalty revenue that you get, which is basically coming from essentially what they call mechanical royalties, people actually playing your music, that rate is probably a premium compared to everything else. So in other words, there's a reason why you hear top 20 on radio in any genre. It's because it's like the upper echelon of what's quote unquote trending according to Billboard charts. And you want to do that because if you're getting 20, 30 spins a day per market, you multiply that times 5 cents, 7 cents, whatever, that's a huge bag from just radio. You know what I'm saying? So it will never actually die out. It just becomes a smaller and smaller portion of the overall bag compared to some of the other avenues that an artist can make, right? So I know that was a bit of a tangent, but the point I'm trying to make is that I'm not saying radio itself is totally dead, but if you're not doing it like the Breakfast Club or one of them major platform, one of those major stations that's dominating on the platform, it ain't gonna work for you. And to defend these guys a little bit, you can tell from their YouTube content that the parent company that owned Hot 97 was not investing shit into them. You know what I'm saying? They complained about the fact that the studio had roaches, homeless people sleeping outside. You know what I mean? You could tell from like the interviews, like the it's darkly lit. They're not adding a bunch of stuff. The wallpaper looked crazy. So you can tell they're not reinvesting into it. And in a sense, I could see how that would be demotivating for them because eventually they said, fuck it, they stopped coming. So you look at the Breakfast Club where they're every, year or two, they're updating the studio. They're trying to come with more cameramen. They're trying to make better content, make it more presentable, while Hot 97 is the exact opposite. And if you're not supporting your talent, how could you expect them to really do well? Just a counterpoint. But yeah, so let's get back to Vlad. So Vlad, this is a while ago. This is an old actual, I guess it's a tweet. But, when, it's from April 3rd. But when the axe came down, he sure enough had some more shit to say. So let's get into that.
I don't think that Rosenberg is going to retire broke. That guy, he's not a spender. Rosenberg, that is. Yeah. He's been working without a contract for 5 to 6 months now.
Yeah, whatever. I'm telling you, that company looked like they were low-key jerking them a little bit. Because you don't get fired like that. That's crazy. They look like, Aqua was saying, they look like they found out with us on Twitter, which is probably true.
5 to 6 months now. That's 7. Let me explain the difference between radio.
All right, so yeah, this is the big tweet right here from DJ Vlad. Let's hear it.
Ebro's morning show ending on Hot 97. Let me explain the difference between radio and new media. Radio people were required to hate their competitors. Hot 97 and Power 105 fight over the exact same set of ears in the New York area. So
big facts. Big facts. It's a flawed business model. You know what I mean? The market share is so big. Well, in reality, outside of radio, the market share is so big that you don't have to do that. But if they're considering that the fact that hip hop itself is not dominating the charts as it used to, well, then in a sense they are in competition, but not to the point where they got to tear one down so the other one can survive.
management requires them not to work with their rivals. This is why bozos like Rosenberg always hated me, academics, and every other new media person. He just kept doing what his boss told him he should do. New media is totally different. There are billions of potential viewers, so everyone can carve out a lane for themselves and do well without stepping on anybody else's toes. This is why you see academics, Adam 22, Traplo Ross, Whack 100, the Danza Project, Sean Cotton.
Hey! You see that? Shout out to the Danza Project as new media. But it's true, because none of that is a lie, right? We all talk behind the scenes, little interactions, usually about guests and not stepping on each other's toes and working with each other. Because if we look at it like that and we figure out that we're pushing the overall media cycle together, there's a way, especially now, there's a way that, for instance, we'll use 6ix9ine's example. 6ix9ine has a project or some type of narrative he wants to push. Well, the idea now is don't just go on one podcast, go on all them shits. And then we talk behind the scenes to make sure that everybody's, getting a fair deal, to make sure that no one's getting jerked at the same time, so we can actually release our clips in a complimentary fashion. So you, as the consumer, you see it in a way that makes sense for the algorithm. It knows how to bring you one clip after another, from one creator after another. So now you get the whole picture, and whatever narrative, for instance, for example, in this instance, we'll say 6ix9ine, whatever narrative 6ix9ine is trying to push, it's gonna hit you from a couple different angles. And that only works from a collaborative effort, and you have to understand new media. Because again, like I was saying, versus old media, you're not dealing with a passive audience. And if you look at it from that point of view, well, then you probably will think that you have to compete with somebody else, because there's only so many people that are just going to sit there, turn your shit on, and just absorb it. With new media, now you got to click, you got to like, you got to comment, you got to share, you got to engage, you got to do all these different things that it's kind of a shame. These are all things that Ebro and them are learning right now. Because again, like I said, if you look at their latest endeavors, for the past 3 days, they probably got more views on that new channel than they ever got together, all put together on the Hot 97 channel. So it's a bitter pill to swallow, but you gotta pause, but you gotta endure the shit. And again, shout out to Ack. He made a point that a lot of people who talk shit about YouTube or talk shit about it and then eventually end up on the platform, there's a process that they don't want to go through. They don't want to go through the process of having like no subscribers. They don't want to go through the embarrassment of only having like 100 views. But the point is, everybody go through that shit. Everybody who's ever been successful on YouTube or any other platform that's based on views has had to go through the growing pains. So there's a snobbish attitude that has to be addressed, or I should say that is being addressed right now, that Rosenberg and Ebro had. It was a hubris. Like, oh, we don't have to go through that. We don't have to go through the embarrassment of having no views or no comments because we're on radio and we're this established legacy brand and so on and so forth. But as they learn the hard way, that brand is not your brand. And that's the biggest difference between old media and new media. That brand is not your brand. With new media, you could create your own brand and you could work with other brands and we could all build our brands so our brands can get bigger. Old media is the exact opposite. The brand is established and either you become part of it or you get rolled over. And that's like the plot of the Highlander, right? There could only be one. Well, guess what? That shit ain't gonna work forever, bro. This new method that we're talking about, this new method that Vlad's talking about, get back to this quote.
Matt Hoffa, 1090 Jake, myself, and others all get along, do each other's podcasts, share business info, and ultimately succeed together.
You hear that? Ultimately succeed together. That is the wave of new media. Collaboration. Let's interview each other. Let's talk. You know what I mean? What they have? They have the remix, you know what I'm saying? Clip up my shit, react to it, keep the views going. That is the vibe, right? And, you know, they got to get on board. But again, to their credit, it looks like they are. This last episode right here, 73K. Let's see what they got.
As she does every year for a very long period.
Every year. So she's stuck, by the way, again having travel issues.
By the way, I'm of the thought that maybe she just shouldn't have even planned a trip at this point. I travel a lot.
I don't know. I watched 10 seconds. I'm kind of fucking bored. But, you know, shout out to them. Like I said, the views are better. You know, welcome to YouTube, guys. I mean, I know you've been here for a while, but now you're like really into shit. So, you know what I mean? It is what it is. And do I think more is coming? Hell yeah. I mean, we're not talking about all radio stations, but for instance, right? Down here, we got Power 96. Power 96 used to be like a rhythmic dance station, had some hip hop shit going. Man, they said, fuck all that. They just switched the format, turned it into, I guess, an oldie station. Oldies meaning music from like the 90s and early 2000s. So there's an era of hip hop that we're in now that just is not conducive to regular old media, regular terrestrial radio. And it started right around SoundCloud. And they had SoundCloud rappers on there, and these guys were trying to tell them that that was not a thing and that it wasn't going to work and that the Uzi Verts and the XXXTentaciones and all the people from that era wasn't going to be superstars. And now you got NBA young boys selling out arenas. You gotta adapt, man. You can't be the old dinosaur. I remember one time Khaled had a great interview on the Breakfast Club, as a matter of fact. And he was talking about how every 5 years, if you're a part of an organization, there's what they call a regime change, where they bring new people in for management, and either you move up or you move out. And with them being on Hot 97 for 20 years, they have ultimately endured at least 4 regime changes, and a recent one with the acquisition of the radio station by that newest company. But the point is, how many of them shits do you really think you could last? And that goes for essentially any employee, right? How many regime changes at your organization do you think that you're going to last? Because it happens every 5 years. They bring in new managers, somebody will buy the company, somebody new will get elected, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't matter the organization. It can be private, it can be public, it can be big, it can be small. There's gonna be a change. That's the only real guarantee. So are you ready for it? Are you embracing it? Are you doing like what the people on the Breakfast Club did? They went out and started new channels and all that shit? Or you do it like 50 Cent, for example. Everybody talking shit about him, but he positioned himself to evolve because he knew Them records ain't for the sell forever. You know what I'm saying? Diddy the only one talk about bad boy for life. And you see that shit is not for life, bro. None of it is. None of it is. So we all got to be prepared to adapt, change, and evolve. It's just part of life. And that's what these guys are going through. And that's what anybody from old media versus new media is going to have to do. Even us in the new media space. That's why we evolving right now. That's why we have this show. Because we got to do something different. We got to evolve. We got to keep the pace going. That is the only way we'll all still make it. Woo. Yeah. I feel like I cooked with that, but, you know, whatever. We'll clip it. We'll make it do something. All right, so, yeah. On to the next subject. I'm going to roll right into the movie of the week. We'll finish off with the show of the week because it's the season finale of Welcome to Derry, and it was pretty fire. Spoiler alert, right? But movie of the week, right? So, I'm kind of late to this one. I need to change the speed on these shits. There we go. All right, cool. So I'm kind of late to this one, but I was like, I want to check out F1. You know what I'm saying? I ain't catch it in the theaters. I ain't catch it when it first dropped on HBO Max. But I was like, you know, I got time this weekend. Let's see what it is. And, you know, it was, what's the word? It was a box office smash. So shout out to them. And they got my boy thing there from one name from Snowfall. You know what I'm saying? Brad Pitt, you know, he don't make bad movies. So I figured it was a vibe. And it was. You know, it's a good fucking movie. I ain't gonna lie. But my honest opinion about that movie was I felt like I was watching a 2.5 hour commercial. Like, in the most obvious way possible. I mean, everything about the movie is marketing. I mean, don't get it twisted. You know what I'm saying? It's very well done, entertaining, good marketing, but, you know, it's marketing. It's the whole shit from top to bottom. So I don't know, man. Like, I felt weird watching it because I remember when the movie came out. I don't want to say it turned me off to the movie, but it made me not rush out to see it. There were all these events around the movie. I remember that they had F1 racing. They were doing an event in like, you know, South Beach or Miami Beach or whatever, right? So they had like an event tied to the movie. And then they had like the F1 racing that was going to happen at, I guess, either Hard Rock or maybe some other speedway down here. But they had an actual F1 event. And then you had all the merchandising shit that went along with it. And I was just like, yo, parties. That was the other thing too. They had a bunch of parties and just all this stuff surrounding F1. So it was just like, almost like overstimulation, just marketing. Like, oh, come to the F1 party, come to the F1 exhibit, check out the F1 movie, and let's eventually we have the F1 race, and da. So it's just like F1, everything. I was like, all right, that's a lot. And then when the movie came out, more marketing, because it was like, oh God, it's the number one box office sensation. Brad Pitt's so good. And it was just like F1. And I was like, God damn. We're like, can we get an F1 fucking break for a moment? You know what I'm saying? Because I'm sure the movie's good, but Jesus Christ, right? So I let some time go between the marketing and when I actually watched the movie. I let it simmer down a little bit so I feel like I can really just absorb the movie for what it is and not just a result of fucking marketing. And the movie's full of marketing, bro. Like, it's not bad. It's not bad at all. But what I'm saying is, all right, I don't know about you, but I ain't never been to a Formula One race, right? And probably neither of you. So the movie basically explains what a Formula One race is, how it works, and like the team sport element of it. So a lot of the movie is really just explaining to you what the fuck the sport is, right? So if that was on TV, we would call that an infomercial. And that's really what it is. And like, it's cool, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, it's visually stunning. Like, we get back to it. There's a lot of cool shit about F1 racing, especially about the way the cars are designed and, you know, the mechanics that go into the pit crew and all that. Like, that's all genuinely fascinating stuff, right? But then the other thing which I noticed, which maybe we can catch from a little bit of preview here, is that, let's see it. In almost every single frame, there are logos on every fucking thing. Like, as soon as a character comes on screen, they're just covered with logos. There's for this, for that, for all this shit. You know what I'm saying? They're always, in every scene, they're always running around in tracksuits that say Mercedes-Benz, HSBC Bank, Expensify, da-da-da-da-da. So, like, these people are just walking billboards in the movie. And it's not just during the racing scenes. You know what I'm saying? Like, when they chill out, when they take off their coat, they got a jacket, they got a shirt underneath that got more fucking logos. So every single time, in every single scene, it's like you're looking at a billboard for the whole movie. So not only is the movie explaining to you the sport, but it's also like selling you shit the entire time. And then, right, the last thing is that the movie is gorgeous, right? Like, it looks fantastic, but they go all over the world, right? So it's basically, not only are they selling you the sport and all the brands that advertise within the sport, but they're also like basically marketing tourism to you. They're like, hey man, you ever been to Dubai? Well, let me show you what the shit look like. You ever been to Vegas? Let me show you what the shit look like. You ever been to so-and-so? Let me show you what the shit look like. As a matter of fact, this is where our track is when you go there. And if you want to go catch a race, this is what it's gonna look like. So like, it really feels like a 2.5 hour commercial for Formula One racing with a story sprinkled in. You know what I'm saying? A little Brad Pitt as the old grizzled race car driver is he a has-been or is he a never was? And then he's back for one more race. Da, 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 da. That whole trope. And then you got the young upstart played by Damien Idris or whatever his name is. You know, it was cool. And he had like a little Jamaican mother. That was dope too. She's like, let me tell you something. We have one son doing hard. Yeah, he was really getting on him. So that was cool. But like, you know, the movie's well acted. You know, they showed the importance of the pit crew, and how technically proficient they have to be, and how they all have to get along. And it's cool. Like, it's a good story. Like, it's not bad at all. And like, again, like I keep saying, it's impressive. Like the way they show the cars and how they maneuver, because most of them are like fully electric and they have all this digital dashboard. It's fun. But I can't shake the feeling that the shit was a giant commercial. And I low-key would have been pissed if I went and spent money to watch a 2-hour commercial for Formula One racing. So, I don't know. I mean, it's good, you know. And I kind of probably would have enjoyed it in 4DX with the seat moving around and all that shit. You know what I'm saying? That would have been dope. But it's not bad, man. Bun to Spliff, you know what I mean? Drink a beer or some shit, you know, watch it. It's cool. There's nothing surprising about it. You know what I'm saying? Like, the way it ends is the way you think it's going to end. A lot of crashes, though. I will give it that. There's a lot of crashes. Like, in fact, we're watching a crash right now. Yeah, they crash a lot in this fucking movie. They crash. In fact, they're crashing every race. Spoiler alert. There's a crash in every race. So if you like Days of Thunder and, I don't know, It's even the Ricky Bobby movie, you know what I'm saying? Like, all them racing movies, it's up there with that shit. It's not bad at all. It's good. But I've never, and I mean never, seen a movie with more product placement than this. I mean, there is a logo essentially in every frame. They're always wearing track shirts that have shit on it. And I thought that was kind of annoying. Not gonna lie. And again, they are explaining the whole sport of Formula One racing to you, and they're just basically hoping that after you're done watching the movie, you might, hey man, you know, that shit seemed pretty cool. Let's go check out a race for real now that we understand what's happening. So if that was the point, mission accomplished. You did it. All right. Moving along. We got to do the show of the week. Let me wrap this shit up. And that is the let me make this playback speed right. The season finale of Welcome to Derry. Welcome to Derry. Man, this shit was good. Not gonna lie to you. I was kind of worried that, you know, because the previous episode 7, kind of wrapped everything up, right? The it monster was supposed to go to sleep for his 28-year cycle or whatever that shit is, and one of them army people took the barricades or the barriers. I forgot what they call this shit. They took him out of the circle to try to destroy it, and that basically allowed it to run out of Derry. And that was the whole plot of the episode 8. Trying to close off the gap that was opened by the pillar. That's the fucking word. The open gap that was left by the pillar being removed by the military. And it's kind of like that season, the episode 5 in the middle of the season where they all had to meet in the sewer. Same situation, but this time they were meeting at the edge of the town, and it made a lot more sense. So we had everybody back in the mix. We had the military back in the mix. We had the black soldiers in the mix. We had the kids, and we also had the Native Americans. My boy finally came back. He ran away for 2 episodes after he dropped the dagger. The motherfucker did not admit to dropping the dagger. There's a serious lack of accountability with that young man. But other than that, you know what I mean? The episode was pretty fire. But yeah, so they have this big showdown, and you get this nigga right here, Bill Skarsgård. You get a full hour of him being 100% unhinged. Like, he really did his thing in this last episode. So, other than, you know, the lack of accountability from our Native American friend, I really want to say that this episode was damn near perfect. Lots of action, lots of suspense, lots of scares, lots of the clown, bro, just going crazy, man. Kidnapping a bunch of kids, get ready to take them all out, killed quite a few people in this shit. Big, explosive finale. They even changed the creature design, which I thought was dope, because he was going to go to sleep, and he kind of buries himself halfway in the mud, and he said, oh, what the fuck? Shit's loose. Let me get him out. And he just has like this half war paint look for the whole thing. And I thought that was dope too, man. Like, you know. And then they have the little emotional moment when my boy Richie come back and help them. It's good, bro. Like, everything about it. The meteorite, they explain that, you know, if you hold on to it too long, it make you act a certain way. They probably should address that a little earlier. But other than that, you know what I'm saying? That part made sense, because they said that basically all you got to do is dig that into the ground, and it'll take the place of the pillar that was missing. So the plot, the action, and the way it all came together for the season finale was really satisfying. And they brought up a plot point towards the end, which was cool. Like, it was uncharted territory about the fact that maybe the monster don't see time like how we do, because he explained a couple things that lead back to the movies that came out in whatever 2016 or whatever, and they come up with this whole theory that the monster doesn't see time linearly, like he could go back and forth, he sees it all at once. So now that dynamic actually makes the rest of the seasons make more sense. Because the girl posed the question, well, damn, what if he could go back in time and kill us before we were even born? On some Back to the Future shit, because he mentioned that. Or Terminator 2 shit, whatever, right? And the fact that maybe he could go back and forth through time to really try to defeat his opposition at different points in time, whether it be before this battle, after this battle, or some point in the future, because he himself understands that he's going to die one day. And he knows exactly when it's going to happen, so now he's going to try to go back and forth through time to avoid that. Which is also kind of like a Kang story, Kang the Conqueror. If you fuck with Marvel, you know what I'm talking about. But yeah, so it was dope. It was a good finale. It addressed all the issues that I had, kind of tied everything back up. I don't think there's any real unanswered questions. Pretty self-contained, right? So if we go through the whole series, I really thought episodes 1 through 4 were good. 5 was probably the weakest episode. 6 was all right. 7 was pretty good. And then 8, 8, they knocked it out the park, bro. Not gonna lie. If you're a fan of the movies, if you like horror, if you like Stephen King, like all that shit is there. Plus all the references to other work, right? References to The Mist, references to Carrie, references to direct references to the, I almost want to call them sequel movies now, but the It Chapter 1 and Chapter 2. All that stuff is addressed. It's all put together. Some surprise cameos. All the theories kind of paid off. A little CG heavy. You can tell that they had this whole mist concept just to basically make it easy for all the CG. But it worked out. The only other lack of accountability, I would say, other than the Native American, is from the wife. Let's see if I can find her. Where is she at? Her, right there. Yeah, man, because low-key, she started a lot of shit, bro. Like, I'm not going to let her slide. She is the one that decided to hide the fugitive at the black spot, which brought the racist cops to them so they can have the Sinner-style showdown. So, in other words, if she had never brought the fugitive back to the black spot, there wouldn't have been the massacre at the black spot. I'm dying on that hill. I'm sticking to that story. So, and then she didn't apologize. She ain't really say like, hey, man, I kind of fucked that shit up. You know what I'm saying? And then also, since we're on the subject of lack of accountability, also the fugitive, the girl's dad, he was fucking this old white bitch and didn't even once address the fact that she turned him in and she actually is the one that blew the whistle that he was at the black spot. And basically between the white lady and this one here, if them two had never got involved, there wouldn't have been no massacre at the black spot. You know what I'm saying? So he was fucking the old white bitch, strike number 1. Didn't acknowledge that he fucked it up. Didn't acknowledge that she snitched on him. And didn't acknowledge that she and this one here is responsible for all the deaths in episode 6. But whatever. It's storytelling. I'm not mad at it. It's cool. But yeah, them 2 points or 3 points are my only little objections. But other than that, welcome to Derry. Phenomenal show. I'm glad I watched it. It was worth 2 months of analysis and checking out every episode every week. And I do like the fact that I can come and talk to y'all about it. So, I appreciate you. Yeah. Across the borders, what Kay says I was cooking. So, yeah, man. We going to go ahead and wrap this up. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to y'all. Appreciate y'all for checking in. Make sure you like, comment, share, subscribe. Also, check out the other content that we got on the channel. Max B interview. Going crazy. You know what I'm saying? Louis Young interview, basically about dropping tonight. It's going crazy, right? We just did some taping today. Gary Owen is coming The shit for to go crazy, man. Over here, let me tell you something. Over here at the Danza Project, we ain't fucking around, bro. You feel me? All that shit that Vlad said, shout out to him because that shit's true. We work hard, we collaborate. You know what I'm saying? It's all love. It's never no. I be seeing that weird what they call that shit? Content creator beef. Where this nigga don't like this nigga, and this nigga say something about this nigga. Like, who is it now? Anton Daniels versus Lamont Hill. Shit is trash, bro. Like, who cares? We're all cool, man. We're all older adults in this space. Like, there's no need to carry on like kids. And all what we gonna do, I'm gonna make a video about you, you gonna make a video about me, I'm gonna make a video. Like, that shit's stupid. Like, it's content at the end of the day, and I get it. Like, we're just, clip farming and whatever. But it's not real, and to me, it's not productive. So I much rather the collaborative effort. I much rather us work together. I like the behind the scenes aspect of it, where we're all kind of like, not really pulling the strings, but we're not blindsided. You know what I'm saying? We don't look at our phone and be like, oh shit, what the fuck? No, we know what's happening. You know what I'm saying? It's just a matter of watching the ripple effect of y'all comment, share it, like it, react to it, so on and so forth. That's the new media way, right? We have active participants in our audience. It's not just a passive audience. Yeah, so with that, we gonna wrap it up for the night. But I cannot go without hitting y'all with that theme song one more time, bro. Like, it is what it is. I fucking love that shit. And hopefully you do too, because here we go.
Feeling the weight like a suitcase of stress.
Let's
Time
do it.
to pack it up and leave the mess.
Come on.
Hop on a ride to a brighter glow. It's not just a trip, it's the ultimate show. Trip to Orlando, the getaway you need.
Come on.
Laughs and reviews at lightning speed. Trip to Orlando where fun runs free. Your ticket to the stars and celebrity.